Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Quest for Clarity podcast. I'm your host, Nolan Denaro. Thank you so much for joining me today. We got a very interesting show for you guys today. We're going to discuss the New York mayoral race, which just had a shocking result with Democratic Socialist Zohran Mamdani winning the Democratic nomination for mayor. I want to go into a couple things. I think it's very important that both Republicans and Democrats understand what happened in this election. I think a lot of people are getting it wrong. You go on Twitter, and I'm looking at a lot of the Republican commentators, a lot of the Democrats. I think the Republican commentators are getting it. I mean, they're not entirely off. They are blaming a lot of this election, a lot of the fact that Zohran Mamdani got elected, are blaming it on the fact that migrants have come over to New York City, and they blame it on migrants, illegal immigration, infiltrating the culture of New York City and changing it so much so that someone with the policies of democratic socialism like Zohran Mamdani has can get elected with the overwhelming landslide that he did. Now, well, I don't think that is entirely not a factor. I think there's a much bigger factor at play here that doesn't have to do with the fact that a lot of his base could be immigrants. I don't think that's the biggest factor at play here. I think the factor that helped Zohran Mamdani get over the top in this election is much like the factor that helped build Donald Trump's coalition in 2016, build it back in 2024, and helped to build the movements in 2016 and 2020 behind Bernie Sanders. And this is an overall sense that the establishment in both parties, but in this case the Democrat Party, has left the average worker, in this case New York City, the average worker behind. I mean, it's clear that the city itself right now is being run by establishment hacks. I mean, Eric Adams is no populist. You had before that, you had Mayor Bill de Blasio. You had Andrew Cuomo, the guy who ran for mayor this time around as governor, who during COVID instituted complete totalitarian lockdowns and became essentially a dictator in the state, all while destroying the economy of the state and the city and covering up the deaths of old people in nursing homes. So, all this to say, the fact that he was able to run for mayor of New York City and get the backing of all the big billionaire donors that basically run the Democrat Party shows how out of touch the party leadership is with their voting base. And it's absolutely hilarious as a conservative myself to look on to the opposite party and see how in disarray their establishment is. But I'll get into this later. I think that this gives the Republicans something to be careful of as well, because the movement Mamdani was able to build against the Democratic establishment is something that we have to be careful of when it comes to 2028. I'll get into that later, though. So, what are some policies that Zohran Mamdani ran on? Well, as I mentioned before, he's a self-described democratic socialist who ran on policies including government-run grocery stores. Yeah, like full-on communist the government-run grocery stores, which, I mean, I'll be interested to see if this actually happens, number one. And number two, what is the effect going to be on the for-profit grocery stores? It's going to be very wild to see what happens there. He also has called previously to abolish the police. So if crime already wasn't a problem in New York City, that'll be wild to watch. He's also called to freeze the rent, and he is previously quoted, I believe he said something along the lines in a tweet of, "Defund the police is queer liberation." If anyone knows what that means, please comment it down below. So, again, it's very important to understand how somebody like this, with such radical views, could have gotten elected in New York City, the biggest city in America, and the capitalist hub of the world. How did this happen? How has our country fallen to the point where the citizens of a city like New York have now switched over to backing a democratic socialist? Well, number one, as I mentioned before, the fact that the Democratic establishment was propping up the worst possible candidate that they could possibly prop up, the lockdown governor, Andrew Cuomo. I mean, he destroyed the state, and he was kicked out of office in disgrace. I mean, this was set up for failure. Whose idea was it? I'd like to see the boardroom. I would have liked to see the boardroom meeting of all these fundraisers and all these donors, these billionaire donors. What were they possibly thinking when they said they would nominate the creep, Andrew Cuomo, the man who single-handedly was involved in the cover-up of deaths in nursing homes during COVID, who instituted lockdowns the likes of a dictatorship? I mean, whoever thought that was a good idea should instantly lose all sway in Democrat circles. Another important thing to understand is that Zohran Mamdani, not that this necessarily, look, I want to make this very clear. This obviously, and this is why this is so ridiculous, this obviously has no effect on New York City, what I'm about to say. But for some reason, a big part of this campaign was policy on Israel. I mean, ignore the fact that we're not running for president of the United States or even governor of a state, which again wouldn't have anything to do with Israel, but multiple times brought up at the debate, brought up in campaign ads. There was this constant narrative of anti-Semitism being a real problem in New York, and therefore Israel was brought up multiple times in the debates and in campaign ads. So Cuomo positioned himself as the just classic establishment, just defender of everything Israel does, and that he painted people like Zohran Mamdani as the most vicious anti-Semite, which I don't know what's in Zohran Mamdani's heart, but the way that Cuomo positioned himself and laid it on so thick with the Israel propaganda he would spew, just made it so easy for Zohran Mamdani to position himself as the lone person speaking out against this. To the point, maybe Zohran Mamdani is crazy. I don't know. I haven't heard everything he's ever said about Israel. Maybe he's a full-blown anti-Semite for all I know. I don't know. But Cuomo laying it on as thick as he did, and the other establishment Democrats running in this race, it made them seem so insane. I'm going to show you this clip right now. This was a clip from I believe the first mayoral debate of the primaries. And the media, shame on the media for asking this question because it's such an unimportant question. They ask all these candidates what their first foreign visit would be, which I don't. Again, if I'm a New Yorker and I am curious about mayoral policy, my first concern is not where their first foreign visit is going to be. I mean, I'd be concerned about the rent, and I'd be concerned about the cost of living. I'd be concerned about crime. I'd be concerned about the illegal immigrants that have overrun my city. The mayor's first foreign visit is not my main concern. Anyway, here's the clip of them asking these candidates where they're going to be visiting on their first trip. And just look how insane all these establishment hack Democrats look when they all in unison say Israel as if they were given the script backstage. And it just gives Zohran Mamdani a layup to seem like the only person who is in touch with the citizens of this city and who isn't absorbed with this weird love for some country across the world that has nothing to do with him. So here you go.
Okay. The first foreign visit by a mayor of New York is always considered significant. Where would you go first? Left to right, Ms. Adams.
First visit, I would visit the Holy Land.
Okay. Mr. Lander, sorry.
Boy, what Trump is doing to Canada, there's a lot of opportunities for us to partner better with them.
Ms. Ramos.
I'd love to meet Claudia Sheinbaum, but I'd probably head to Colombia, to my parents' homeland.
Mr. Myrie.
I am a proud son of two Caribbean immigrants. I represent a robust Caribbean constituency. I'd like to go to the Caribbean as my first visit.
Mr. Cuomo.
Given the hostility and the anti-Semitism that has been shown in New York, I would go to Israel.
Mr. Tilson, where would you go?
Yeah, I'd make my fourth trip to Israel, followed by my fifth trip to Ukraine, two of our greatest allies fighting on the front lines of the global war on terror.
Mr. Mamdani.
I would stay in New York City. My plans are to address New Yorkers across the 5 boroughs and focus on that.
Mr. Mamdani, can I just jump in? Would you visit Israel as mayor?
I've said in a UJA questionnaire that I believe that you need not travel to Israel to stand up for Jewish New Yorkers. And that is what I will be doing as the mayor. I'll be standing up for Jewish New Yorkers, and I'll be meeting them wherever they are across the 5 boroughs, whether that's in their synagogues and temples or at their homes or at the subway platform, because ultimately we need to focus on delivering on their concerns.
And just yes or no, do you believe in a Jewish state of Israel?
I believe Israel has the right to exist.
Not
as a Jewish state?
No,
as a state with equal rights.
He won't, he
Not
won't
as a
say it
Jewish
has a
state.
right to exist as a Jewish state. Be very
And
clear.
his answer was no, he won't visit Israel.
I said that very
That's what he
clearly.
was trying to say.
No. Unlike
No,
you, I
you
answer.
never-
Unlike
you
you, I
never
answer
said
questions
no.
very
Okay.
directly,
All right, I
and
think
I
we're
want to
clear.
be
You
very
answered-
clear. I
you answered-
believe every state should be a state of equal rights.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mamdani. Mr.
Now, like, what was that? It's okay to ask, what was that? That was just absurd. If for not one, not two, but like multiple candidates for mayor in New York City all say Israel. Even and Mamdani didn't even have to do anything. He didn't have to say anything anti-Israel there. It's not like nothing there he said was anti-Israel. He said that he was going to stay in New York and deal with New Yorkers. That is the acceptable answer. That is the answer that you give in that situation. And then for Cuomo to come back at him and be like, he didn't say it should. He doesn't want to go to Israel. He doesn't say it should exist as a Jewish state. Who cares? That is not the issue in this debate. Whether he believes Israel has none of this matters. And it makes all of these people, do they not understand how out of touch this looks? It makes all of them look absolutely insane. This just feeds into narratives that the Israel lobby owns these politicians. It just feeds into that. The worst PR you can possibly imagine was that debate moment. Absolutely insane. Now, continuing on with this fact that the establishment Democrats are just so fake and so phony. I mean, there was even a clip on Twitter that I was seeing of the local news in New York asking some of these candidates just fun questions like Mets or Yankees or Jets or Giants and stupid stuff like that. And all these guys are just giving their answers, and Cuomo's just like, both. I like them both. I was the governor. It's like, dude, it's so phony. It's so phony. No one's buying that. And they also asked them. One of the questions was, "What's your favorite line on the train or whatever?" And Cuomo names the one that he built, and he names it. And it's so funny looking at the comments. I don't live in New York, so I don't know the exact names of these subways. But Cuomo names it in its full name, and people in the comments are flaming him like, that's not what anyone in New York City calls it. He's so out of touch, and he only named it because that's the one that he helped build. This guy was just so out. He was spiraling. He was so out of touch. This also reminds me of Kamala Harris in a sense. I think that given that New York City has the economy of like a country. Given that it has such an impact on the national politics, like people who are mayor of New York are automatically considered as like potential Democrat nominees the next time around. This reminds me a lot of Kamala Harris's campaign. Just out of touch, doesn't care about the average person at all, seems so Hollywood, seems so phony, backed by the biggest billionaire donors, and has no PR strategy to attract anyone in the middle class or the lower classes. I'm going to conclude here by saying what I think that Democrats need to learn and what I think Republicans need to learn from this going into 2028 and even the midterms. Democrats, I don't even want to help them out because I hope they don't learn from this lesson. I hope they keep running establishment hacks, and I hope the Republicans can keep winning. But if they're ever going to get a grip, they need to get away from this toxic class of the Pelosi's, the Schumers, all these ridiculous bought and sold, owned by the donors people that have been running their party for years, running it into the ground. And I hope they stay with those guys because they're just awful. So I hope they stay with them, and I hope that the Republicans can keep taking advantage of that because it's just so ridiculous. Now the Republicans need to learn that much like in 2016 with our Donald Trump moment, where Donald Trump single-handedly destroyed the Republican establishment, the Jeb Bushes, the Ted Cruzes at the time, the John Kasichs, these people who were just establishment, and the Chris Christies. He destroyed the Republican establishment during those primary debates, during the election, and by winning. Democrats, eventually, as always, it's a constant cycle. Eventually, the Democrats will try and repeat what the Republicans did to their establishment. So this could be their moment. This could be the start of their run into 2028, where they kick out the establishment and take control of their party. Now, as Republicans, we have to be aware of that, and we got to get things done for the American people. We got to follow through on the promises. We got to get the mass deportations. We got to try and lower inflation. We got to do these things that we promised on the campaign trail. We got to end the wars. We got to These are all things that we have to do. We have to follow through with Robert F. Kennedy's agenda. We gotta help elevate people like J.D. Vance and get him ready for 2028. The Democratic establishment is on their back foot now. They are on the run. What are we going to do to adjust to this new populist movement on the Democrat side as Republicans? What are we going to do? Are we going to follow through with our policies? Or are we going to allow foreign policy mistakes and foreign policy psychos like Lindsey Graham's and Tom Cotton's and Mark Levin's and Ben Shapiro's to run our party into the ground and make us unpopular? Because if we do that, if we follow that path, we do it at our own peril because of this rising wave of populist Democrats. So I'm going to end it there. Just a warning to the Republicans. Let's get a grip and let's get some things done for the American people, because that is what's going to determine whether we can retain power with J.D. Vance or another Republican in 2028, or if the Democrats movement will continue and push them over the top to the presidency in 2028. So that's where I'll wrap it up for today. Just wanted to go over that election and explain the national importance of it, because I think I was not seeing too many people really, in my opinion, understanding what was going on there. And just wanted to explain that. So thank you guys so much for watching today. Please be sure to like and subscribe. Go follow me on Spotify, X, and Instagram. Thank you guys so much. Have a good day.